Another edition of Riding Home. Georgia and the Gators getting ready to fight. We could see four quarterbacks in this game, and Ryan Curley got to see got to see two of them today. All right, Ryan, what happened at practice, and give us some insight.
Uh, J- JT Daniels was the number one quarterback in practice today. That's what it looked like. He was taking the first team reps, whether it was handoffs or throwing drills. They didn't show us any drills where he was throwing more than 20, 25 yards, but I think that was just the type of drill they were doing. He looked crisp, looked a lot closer to being his normal self, and he was definitely ahead of Stetson. It was back to the normal pecking order: JT, Stetson, Carson, Brock. So that was all back to normal. That was probably the biggest takeaway. But I mean, if I had to guess, he's going to be starting on Saturday against Florida, just based off what I watched in the combined 12 minutes today.
That'd be my suspicion too. Was it two periods?
It was two periods, one 3 minutes, one 9 minutes.
Oh, really? We're getting
Yeah,
some real arithmetic these days. Um,
yeah,
yeah, that's my suspicion too. And I think well, there's a lot to discuss here. First of all, if he's your best quarterback when healthy, then that's who you need to play. If there's also that they might not think Florida's unbelievable. Obviously, Las Vegas does not think that Georgia's going to have a lot of trouble with them. And then my biggest thing, I've said this for a long, long time. JT needs to play. If he's going to be the guy, he needs to play. And I think the problem is they've not been able to say definitively that he's going to be the guy. I also want to say, too, there's got to be a lot of confidence in Stetson Bennett that they can just throw him in there and he can, score.
yeah. I mean, that's what he's been doing the last few weeks. There hasn't been that much.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about how the offense is at its best potential when JT's out there, and I think that's true. But there's not a super significant drop off when you put Stetson in there. I mean, he's getting the job done. They're putting up points. They're putting up the points that they need to win and to look good. But we think that when JT's in there, they have a lot more potential to be a high scoring offense, to be a more unstoppable offense, and that might probably will be what you need when it comes time if they make the playoff.
All right, let's go through this real quick. Do you think Georgia would lose to the Gators with Stetson as your starting quarterback?
No, I don't.
Okay, how about Mizzou,
No,
Tennessee,
no,
Charleston Southern,
no,
Georgia
no.
Tech?
I think they win out
Oh
the
yeah,
regular season
at
schedule
the
for
end
sure.
there, you're gonna jam
Yeah,
me at the end. How about Alabama? How about Ole Miss?
I
So we know the answer to Auburn. The
we
answer to
know.
Auburn is three score win with Stetson Bennett as your guy.
I
Those are
think
the
that
those are the three teams. I mean, I think Do you want to get into a shootout with Mississippi? I wouldn't. You wouldn't want to get a shootout with anybody. That's not who Georgia really is. I think that I'm not gonna. I think what I should stop trying to do is get into the habit of defending something that's not even happened yet. I mean, I don't know who's going to start. I think, to me, my view is that JT gives you more um, bandwidth for error than you have with Stetson. But I'm not. Listen, I think they can win the national championship with Stetson Bennett as their quarterback. I'm sorry if people are bothered by that. I don't know that there's as many people bothered by that used to be. I also think that you have to be responsible with what you've developed and the program you've got. If you are playing your best players, is Stetson your better player over JT? The recent history is the answer is as no. That's all. Doesn't mean Stetson's
you
bad. I
know
bet you
I was.
Florida Gators would kill for Stetson Bennett right now. I'm
Oh yeah,
talking double homicide. You know what I mean?
they could have a quarterback,
Mm.
but because they just don't have one.
So you're going all
I
out
think
on that.
I I think yeah, they don't. We've watched them a few times. It's bad down there. Um,
Yeah, it is
I
bad
think he
down there.
can be. I was watching college football a little bit closer this Saturday just because we weren't covering a game. I got to watch a lot more teams
Mm.
closer. I think Ohio State's the second best team in the country. That's the team I'd be concerned about playing. Um, it's not definitive, but we're t- I think Stetson could be pretty much anybody. I just think
I
it'd
agree.
be you feel more comfortable with JT in the game. You feel more comfortable that you can put up those points, have those game-winning drives, push the ball downfield at a more efficient rate. And he's simply just a better quarterback. I don't think there's much arguing that. And I think,
I think it
even you
depends
and
who
I
you're
probably spent
talking
too much
to.
time talking about it, but I
Well,
mean,
I
that's
mean,
just what it is.
Florida right now is in the midst of who should they start, and to me, the long term answer is probably Anthony Richardson. But look, Florida, it's going to be hard this weekend to beat Georgia. I just watched Pat Dooley on your friend's television show, Paul Feinbaum, and the negativity around that program right now is pretty serious. Chris Doering earlier this week, I listened to um, Dan Mullen earlier today when he was talking with the beat at Florida, and I don't know that they seem confused, but there's a lot of unhappiness surrounding them. The Gator fans are unhappy that the starting quarterback is not the person that they want it to be, and whoever it is has not been playing unbelievable. They are upset with Todd Grantham being their defensive coordinator, even though the Gators have played pretty well defensively, generally speaking, this year. They did not play well against LSU. There's a frustration with recruiting, which I think is a real big issue for Florida when it comes to beating Alabama and Georgia. There's a lot of aggravation right now, and this is not like 2017, but it's not so far from it that it can't be compared. I mean, in 2017, you had a coach that was falling apart and that clearly did not want to be at Florida anymore. And he was making some accusations that were insane, well, that were very serious, should be taken very seriously. And when Florida tried to take it seriously, I mean, Florida, you say Georgia fans can hate Florida all they want, but that's a good athletic department down there. That school is not a joke, and they were trying to take seriously what was being said. Well, they come into that game, and it was clear that he was going to be let go. Florida laid down and died. They did not want to be there that day. This is not like that, but this isn't like last year. This isn't like 19. This isn't like 18. This isn't like 16 or 15. In 14, you can make the comparisons to this game. That was one of two times in the last 40 years where the double-digit dog has won this game, which was the Gators running the ball at will against a Georgia team that had no excuse for losing that day, Jeremy Pruitt. So it's not like those games, but you're sitting in a teetering situation. I mean, it might be like the 2015 Georgia game with Florida, except the Gators and Dogs are swapping places. I mean, Georgia came into that thing with just no. I mean, Mark Richt, God love him, should have never started Fatone Balta in that game. They still could have won the East. It was a train wreck decision. Brian Schottenheimer is a joke, was a joke, and it just got out of control. Florida wins the game 24-3 or 27-3, multiple interceptions, and Georgia was ready for a change. I don't know that they're ready for a change down in Florida quite yet from Dan Mullen, but they're not throwing him any parades.
Seats getting hotter. Seats getting hotter.
Yes.
And they're mad. The fans are mad about the recruiting. You can go on and look at all those message boards. They've accepted the fact that they're not even close to Georgia in that regard.
For years, they've been
It's a
bothered by that.
problem. Florida State's out recruiting them in some regards. I mean, it's not good.
That
It's not good.
and the other thing that if you look at the schedule that the Gators have remaining, they have Carolina, they have Florida State. I think they might have Mizzou. There's just not a lot of meat on the bone there. I mean, this Florida team needs a big win, and the big win coming against Georgia seems hard to see coming. I'll put it that way.
What's their best case scenario at the end of the season here? A Citrus Bowl, an
Well,
Outback Bowl, something like that? I don't think they could even make an Outback Bowl.
well, um, you know, look,
I mean,
here's the thing, man, is you've got a lot of teams in front of them. They're going to have a decent record if they let. This is an assumption that they lose to the Dogs. They're going to still probably be 8-4, but exactly 8-4 with a bullet to the head. I mean,
what were they
Kentucky,
last year? 9-4.
they
It was
lost
because
four.
it
They
was a
lost
weird year.
four
They lost four
games.
games, but that was the
Yeah.
best team Mullen had, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
You agree?
Well,
That was the
there's some
best.
there's some discussion as to if the 19 team was better. I mean, that 19
The
team
20 team had
lost.
a lot of firepower.
Oh, no question. Yeah, they sure did. But when you look at the team last year, they lost 3 games in a row to LSU, which was inexplicable. Really competed with Alabama, but lost, allowing 52 points, allowed 55 to Oklahoma, which seemed to send them on their way. But if you look at it, Ryan, here's who's going to be in front of them probably in the bowl pecking order: Georgia, Bama, uh, Ole Miss, Kentucky, um, probably either Auburn or A&M, and quite possibly Arkansas. The only thing that could save the Gators is their schedule. Their record would
LSU might be in front of
look
them too.
better. Well, you really buy that? I mean, LSU to me has got. I mean, LSU's got a little ways to go. They got Alabama, Arkansas, and A&M still left in their schedule, and right now they're 4-4. I mean, them
And
going
what,
to a
what what are they
them
fighting
them
for at
them
this
going
point?
to a bowl game is might not happen. Now think about that. I mean, so when you're looking at Florida and what the future holds, this Florida schedule um, in 2022, how do things get better for them? I mean, that's the question. Is you're playing Utah um, at home, I believe, and you could lose that game. I mean, you open up with 2 games back to back for the Gators where they could lose back to back game. I mean, I don't think they'll lose to Utah.
What's the second game?
Kentucky.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't want to hear about how they're definitely going to win that game, and then
No.
we don't know what Tennessee will look like next year. And that game's up in Knoxville. So Utah, Kentucky, South Florida, Tennessee, Eastern Washington, and Mizzou. I'm going to give them those 2 wins for me for sure. You got to play LSU, which we don't know what that will be like. Georgia, then A&M, and you got Carolina, Vanderbilt, Florida State. That's a brutal schedule. This might not get better before, it might get worse before it gets better. And the worst part could be this weekend. I mean, Georgia could go down there and the Gators score a touchdown. That's possible. I
Georgia
mean,
could go
it could
down
get
there and
out
put up 50. I
with
mean, they
with
could.
JT Daniel. We're okay. So we're okay. Give us some other updates though. All right, we
Yeah,
got
yeah. I
too
was about to say,
sidetracked on the
what's the
Gators. What else we got here? I mean, what's going on with the receivers?
Laylock wasn't there. Um,
Blaylock's hamstring.
everybody looked fine. The only one wearing the black non-contact jersey was Pickens.
Yes,
But
but give us a
he looks just
description.
as good as he looks just as good as them. He's getting a lot closer. Uh,
Yeah.
he's got to be there by Tech.
So I was going to
I think you'd
ask,
want to maybe roll him out there by
you're
Charleston Southern.
because you're a medical expert and you have
Oh yeah,
because you have an MD.
yeah.
That's sarcasm, by the way. I think if you get George out there by Charleston Southern or Tech, or you got a long way before these playoffs. I mean, that's New Year's Eve. That's when
I
you're
mean,
going to need
I'm
him
not
those
gonna
last
say I
three
don't.
games.
I'd be completely shocked if he was out there this week. I think
Yeah.
he's still wearing that black jersey. I
How
think
about
at this he wasn't
no
who
no? Well, Roseme, Burton, Smith.
they were all there. They were all good. They all look good.
So see, you could
No
have some.
braces or anything.
Ryan, you can have. So we've not seen Georgia 100% this season.
Oh, this game actually might be the healthiest we've seen them. Is
Yeah,
what it's looking like it's going to be.
yeah.
So I think that's exciting. But the George Pickens, I was watching him with a little bit of excitement today because his cuts are getting better. Just because this is the third time I've seen him now, just running routes and catching balls. I mean, he's looked a little bit better every time. At this point, I don't think it's a matter of his skill or anything. It's just they don't want him to get re-injured. It's probably what it is. I'm not a doctor, but that's my guess.
Well, I think just like with Dominique, you want to make sure all of the long muscles, your hammy is squared away, groin stuff. I mean, muscles that you've not been using in a way that you would. I mean, not playing and then going out and playing hard. That he is going to have to work his way into it. I mean, he ain't going to go out there and drop 100 on the Gators.
No,
That's not going to happen.
no.
And
Uh,
the interesting thing, George Pickens has never really had a legitimate game against the Florida Gators, and he might not in his entire career at Georgia. I mean, that's strange. but that's what it is. But I just, JT. So you felt like, hey, it looks like JT's the guy based on 12 minutes of practice. Of course, tomorrow it could be that
Different.
it could be different. They could flip flop them, or it could have been that this particular time they said, okay, well the twos are going. That's you, JT. We don't know. I'm not in the business of
So just off what
predicting
they've
these
thrown
things.
at us today, it looked like he was number one. So you'd like to think that that's going to progress as the week goes. Pickens looks better. Dan Jackson was still running with the first team.
Hmm.
I thought that was interesting.
What about Chris Smith? Where are
Chris
we
Smith
at
was
there?
out there. Chris Smith was out there. They're just running drills, not scrimmaging or anything like that. But
It's
they
so
did have a,
hard.
Kirby was running a drill with some of the secondary, and it looked like Dan Jackson was still first team.
Was he eating that
Um,
microphone? Was it how heavy was into that microphone?
he wasn't on the mic a lot. He was on the mic a little bit at the end, just telling everyone to get ready
Pe-
for 7-on-7s and
People
stuff like
people
that.
can't
But he
really
was he
appreciate.
was animated.
You
He
can't
was in it, man.
appreciate how just
A lot of f bombs.
he needs like an IV after that. It seems like I don't know how he keeps his voice. And I talk a
He
lot,
was
but I don't scream a lot.
he was after some scout team players today, man. They were whatever
They
drill it
are
was,
going to
something to
need a
do with the
new.
secondary.
They'll need a good look. I wonder who is going to mean. Is it going to be Vandegrift that runs scout team as Emory and AR-15? I mean, is that what they're going
Makes
to
the most
do?
sense, right?
It
I
makes
mean,
the most sense. He's a very good runner. Stetson's a really good runner. The problem there is that he's,
yeah.
your number two. So, I
Any other receivers that were former quarterbacks or anything like that off the top of your head?
well, I wouldn't put Kieris back there to do that.
Karras
Um,
was wearing a sleeve on his leg. I will say that, but
yeah. And
was
and and
he looked fine.
Lad McConkey, I don't think he played a lot of quarterback, if any, in high school, but he would be another guy that I would. But those guys aren't
No,
capable. I mean, they're playing, So, any Kenny McIntosh update at all? I know that
he was out there, no brace or anything like that. He was wearing
Ken,
the red jersey. It looked good. Obviously, Kendall Milton wasn't
right,
there,
right.
but Kenny was there. He
I
was the
think
number three.
I think Ryan. Here's the thing on this situation right now. I mean, you got to get past the Gators one way or the other, and then you're going to have to get past Tennessee. I mean, I thought they looked solid, or
It
solid
might
for
be. It's
them.
probably. I'm at this point. I think you're more concerned about going up to Knoxville than you are about going down to Jacksonville, right?
Well, boy,
I mean, I
you
know
really
that there's
sound
the
young.
rivalry,
You really sound young right now.
just
I think
based off the season.
they're both tough because Florida, that makes some Georgia folks really jumpy after the '90s, but it's really hard to play in Neyland, and with the way Tennessee has played offensively of late, that's something to watch. I don't know if JT Daniels is the JT Daniels we've known to come and expect, the guy that threw it like it was no big deal against Carolina and Vanderbilt and Carolina a couple of times and Mizzou and all these teams. It's gonna be tough to stop this team, man. I mean, whether you're at Neyland or not, and I think the other question is too. Has Tennessee played their best game? Did they play it against Alabama? Did Florida play their best game against Alabama?
They
You
both
know,
played Bama pretty tough,
or
and
for what?
Tennessee there for about 35
Yeah,
minutes. But
yeah. And Alabama
Florida
did
played them
not.
tough to the end.
Right, and Alabama has not looked unreal this year. They've looked good. I think they're the second best team in the country. You said Ohio State. Where would you put Cincinnati in this whole thing?
Four. You want to hear my top five?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why not.
Uh, Georgia, Ohio State, Bama, Cincinnati, and Oklahoma probably. The five is up to debate. I don't know how much I trust Oklahoma.
I think Cincinnati would beat Oklahoma. I don't know if they would beat Ohio State and Alabama. I know one thing. I don't know where Cincinnati. We'll get the. We're still a little bit of ways away from the rankings, but if Cincinnati Ohio State get matched up in the first round, that will be very curious. Panic time in Ohio State. I think Ohio State would probably win that game, but we'll see.
I think so too. I think so too. Would Cincinnati win a playoff game? I don't know. Anything could happen. But
They were
they struggled against Navy. They
they
struggled
had
against
they did not play well except the middle 20 minutes of that game. The ending was disappointing. I expected the slow start. Navy's tough to deal with. But JT Daniels back at practice. Let's monitor this as we go along. Thanks for riding home with us, Dean Leggy. Ryan. Poor Matt is still recovering from the Braves winning. We'll see you over on the website.